part of it is being here tonight, because I was asked not by, only by people in Ward 3, but other wards, to come and voice their worries, their concerns. They feel like City Hall has forgotten them, doesn't listen to them, so that's part of it. I'm here to represent their concerns. I'm here to serve them, in a sense, as I will if I am elected. I already told you what I do. I work on the library board. I've worked as an educator for many years. I've taught Guthrie students in college classes. So I've lived here, been a good taxpayer, been a good citizen, stayed out of trouble.
Thank you. Z, what has your community involvement been with Guthrie?
Well, I've only lived here about 6.5 years. In that time, I've already put 4 years on the city council. I was on the planning commission before that, the historic preservation committee, and with John, I was on the first Capital Solutions. I was first secretary when we started up that group. I don't think I'll ever forget when I first came to town. I came to a city council meeting just to see what was going on. I didn't have any reason to be here. Met Mayor Gummerson for the first time, and he asked me to lead in the Pledge of Allegiance that night, and I don't think I'll ever forget doing that. I'm also a member of Albert Pike Lodge. I'm a past master of that lodge and currently the secretary. And I rarely miss a Blue Jay football game. Big fan. I actually find there's just so much to do. If anybody wants something to do, you can do it in this town. That's why we live here.
Thank you. Brian, what are your goals for the first year in office?
First year in office is to champion the arts. As you know, I've sat on several different workshops, and that is a subject of great importance in this town. But even as importantly is to champion volunteers. I've looked, I've searched, I've talked to Sue Descharme about volunteers. I've talked to others about volunteers. And so, you know, that we're lacking volunteers, but I did find some. I went to our Sheriff Jim Bauman, and he's willing to give up the traditional chain gang, so to speak. That's something that, you know, we shouldn't be afraid of. I'm not talking about hardened criminals. I'm talking about people that have done wrong within the community that need to get back out and fix it. They'll be under sheriff's supervision. There's still a couple more hurdles that need to be, actually one more hurdle only needs to be jumped from our district attorney. We get his approval, good to go. That's my first year.
Thank you. John, what does your vision look like for Guthrie for 5 years?
Okay, well, my vision for Guthrie is to have more people embody our motto, reside with pride, especially as we draw attention on the national level with upcoming events such as Mumford & Sons concert and, of course, our bluegrass festivals. Our neighborhoods are thriving, and we're doing a great job in this area, but it requires continued effort, which is really the tough part. We need the next council to follow in our solid footsteps. And I would like to see Guthrie grow, but not as if it were Edmond. We can grow in our own way. We'll grow by focusing on Guthrie's two biggest draws, our tourism and our prime location as a bedroom community. I'd also love to see a greater diversity of downtown businesses, so folks will have reasons to visit our great city again and again. We can learn from model cities such as Eureka Springs, Boulder, and even Tombstone, Arizona. We also need to regain our lost businesses from commuters who shop elsewhere. I think the Buy Local campaign is an important first step.
Thank you. And finally, Mark, I'd like to ask you the same. What is ask you what your visions are for the city of Guthrie 5 years out?
Guthrie still needs new businesses. We still need to grow. We need to take care of what we've got. But one thing that we always seem to miss is Guthrie's not real big for some of these industries and big stores to come into town. So we have to sell those industries and businesses of Guthrie being the local hub. You want to shop at Atwood's, you go to Stillwater, or you go to Chickasha. That's the only place you can go, or Kingfisher. You want to go to Tractor Supply, you go to Edmond, or that's it. Why not have something like that and convince them to come to Guthrie? And then we do Mulhall, Orlando, Perkins, we do them all. People will come to this little town, they'll spend money, and then when they come through the historical district and they see what we've got and how pretty it is, they'll stop and spend some more money. So Guthrie needs to sell itself as a hub to get these businesses in here to support these other little towns, so they will have some place closer to go other than Stillwater or Edmond or Oklahoma City. So we need to get out there and sell that aspect.
Thank you. You know, these questions are going to take longer than 30 seconds to ask. And I've just got to ask for this first question. I'm going to direct this to the mayoral candidates. And I'm going to allow 1 minute on these. It's a great question. What is your position on the hotel motel tax? And would you support any of this money going to a nonprofit organization such as the Pollard? And we're going to allow 1 minute, and I'd like to begin with Trey.
Well, it's a great question, and one that needs a thorough study. I think it's easy for us to be able to say, do we support the sales tax? Not that I don't just support the sales tax, but if it's there, it's going to encompass some other things. It's already bound by a ballot issue, so there's some parameters that are already within it, what it can be used for. The question the question was, should it go towards?
What is your position on the hotel motel tax, and would you support any of this money going to a nonprofit organization such as the Pollard?
And that's ultimately a decision that'll have to be brought to us by the citizens, to be quite honest with you, and whether or not they want to go that direction. My personal opinion is it's going to take a lot of convincing to use public funds to profit centers if they're not a non-profit organization. That's my personal opinion.
Thank you. And Mark, same question. Would you like for me to reread it?
Same question?
Yeah, what is your position on the hotel motel tax? And would you support any of this money going to a nonprofit organization such as the Pollard?
I support the hotel motel tax for a number of reasons, mainly because that is not money that's coming from our citizens. It's not money from you or me. It's money from outsiders that come and stay in our hotels, motels, bed and breakfast, whatever. It's money from outside. It's clean money coming into the community. Doesn't cost us a penny. You go to a lot of places, it's 14 to 24% on the hotel motel tax. Why not get some of that in here? And then with the chamber's help, if we go ahead and build up a 501c3 and a group that handles the request for those funds, then we give those to the Pollard, partly. But there's other groups in town that are nonprofit that can use that money just as well and just as good. So I'm in support of it, mainly because it's not our money. We're going to have to vote on it, but everybody needs to understand it's money from somewhere else, somebody else, and not this community, but it sure will go a long ways to help the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I clarify on that one issue, though? You were saying it was for a non-for-profit or a for-profit organization?
It says nonprofit organizations such as the Pollard.
Okay, well, for a non-profit, then I think we'll have to study that, and we'll definitely have to look at it. I thought we were saying for a profit organization. My apologies. Clarify the things.
A lot of these questions coming in are more directed, in my opinion, toward the mayoral candidates, and I'm trying to find some that I can ask some of the other challengers. Bear with me 1 second. And if anybody wants to come help me, like Lucy or Mary, you're welcome to do so. Or anybody that's asking
She's
these
leaving.
questions.
She's leaving.
Yeah, there she goes right there. Here's a good one, I think, that we can get the other candidates involved in, and I've already heard it mentioned one time, but I'm going to direct this to Ward 2 to begin with. May ask it even further, but have you ever attended the Citizen Academies? And if so, what did you learn from it? And if you haven't, why not? And I'm going to direct that to Brian first.
Actually, I should have, and I have not at this point. But I have attended some of the workshops and some of the councils. And I think I have a feel for what is going on within the community and what is going on with this council. I've been involved in many boards over time, which obviously aren't the same as a council, but in business, it's pretty similar. Of course, business and government, two separate issues. But no, I have not, but I will.
Thank you. Thank you. Jeff, would you like to answer?
I'll just echo what he said. No, I have not. I think it's a good idea. I think it's something that needs to, that I need to get involved in. So I apologize for not being involved a little bit more in that.
I'd like to thank whoever wrote this because they directed it to the Ward 3 candidates. Thank you, whoever that was out there. How do you see the city handling the dilapidated structures that plague our city? That's the first question. And then what is your feeling that better-looking communities lower the crime rate. So a minute on this one as well. I'm going to direct this to the Ward 3 candidates, and I'm going to begin with Z.
Can you repeat it?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. In fact, let's just take one question at a time.
Yeah,
here.
it sounds like.
Let's see here. How do you see the city handling the dilapidated structures that plague our city?
I think we're doing a good job. John Wood has been heading that up for the most part and pushing the city planners to do that. We've got a lot of dilapidated structures out there, and we've got a real good plan to take care of them. We're chipping through the money we have, and we're doing a pretty good job of doing it.
And Linda, I would ask you the same question. How do you see the city handling the dilapidated structures that plague our city?
Probably the way they are now, but I have been doing research on the beautification movement, and it's based on a theory that if we have nice little houses, neat little yards for people to live in, they will be model citizens, crime will stop, we'll just be a happy little country. But it hasn't proven true. When you go back and you find out the towns and the cities that have tried this method, it didn't stop crime. So we just need to realize it's a change in the people inside the little houses that makes the difference. And a city absolutely controlling people and forcing them to do certain things isn't really going to make model citizens. It will create more animosity.
Thank you. So then I'm going to ask the second half, since these are such good questions, I'm going to go to the Ward 1 candidates and ask them the second part of that question, which is, what is your feeling that better-looking communities lower the crime rate? And I'm going to direct that to John Wood, beginning.
Well, I think that it's interesting. This theory called broken windows theory, where, you know, if you have broken windows, then this invites more broken windows and more dilapidated structures potentially because people don't want to take care of them. So, and I tell you, there's been kind of some folks focused on code enforcement as a bad thing. Code enforcement is what keeps those structures up to code. So if you have broken windows, we say, hey, you need to be fixing your window. Neighborhood associations are great ways to let people know what's going on, and they're voluntary associations. I think neighborhood associations are great. They help lower crime because they put people's eyes on what's going on. So I think neighborhood associations make them stronger. I think that making code enforcement fair and consistent, but there is important.
Thank you. And Mathis, same question. What is your feeling that better-looking communities lower the crime rate?
Well, I understand that cleanliness is next to godliness. So if it's clean, then it would probably lower crime. I would have to see some stats on it. But my feeling is that if we are clean, we can do something. The houses, people would want to move there. They would want to stay in the area. So this is, I believe that it would help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one will be directed to the mayoral candidates, and I'm going to begin with Mark this time. And the question is, and it's a lengthy one, so bear with me here. Logan County Aging Services presently has a contract with the city to use Highland Hall Annex for partial utility cost of $350 per month. Will this be a priority with the future administration? Thank you. Do you understand that question?
No.
I'll ask you, Trey, do you understand the question?
Yeah, I'll address that question. The Logan County Aging, for those of you that don't know, Logan County Aging Services had their funding cut immensely, which affected their ability to continue to serve, to me, the most important citizens in this community, and that's the elderly. And when that occurred, the Logan County Aging Services came to the city and said, can you help us? And one way that we were able to do that, and I championed that, which is to reduce their lease back in order to continue to serve those people that they were serving. And I think at the time it was almost a cut of 60 meals per day. I don't recall the exact number, but it's enough to get your attention. And so how we did that and why that's heavy on my heart. That's, you know, those are folks, my mom and dad are going to be there someday, and I want to continue those services out there for him. And if that's one way I can do it within the city, I'll continue to do that.
Thank you. I'm sorry? Mark. Did you have anything else, Mark, that you'd like to address there?
Well, part of the deal with Highland Halt also is a lot of that stuff in there is real old, and I know they bake and they cook and they have a lot of lights on. Heating and cooling costs are up, so, yeah, it's very expensive for them to work. So with some of the cuts, if there was a way to improve current equipment, that might also help reduce that cost and let them provide a better service. Because that place is packed every day with people, they have nowhere else to go. And that also does the Meals on Wheels for the people that don't, that can't get out. So they do all of that there, so.
Thank you. I'm real interested, and this is a great question as well, I think, and I'm going to direct this to Ward 2 candidates, and I'm going to begin with Jeff. Explain your understanding of the rural water lawsuit that is currently pending.
Oh, wow.
1 minute, 1 minute.
He didn't say 1,000 days.
Yeah, well, I don't know everything that's going on about the lawsuit. I think it's a shame that we've got into this, just from what I've kind of delved into it. It's something that's probably not good. It's going to hurt both sides, whether you're rural water district or whether you're in the city of Guthrie, and we happen to be both, so we're going to get hit both ways. I don't know how many people here that live out in that area now. I don't know how else you could answer something like that. I would like to kind of see what's going to happen at the end. I know I've talked to Trey about it, and it's until we see the judge stand up and say, all right, this is what's going to happen. I think that's the only way you can discuss it with the council and discuss it with the people that live out in the community.
Thank you. Brian,
Well,
I'll ask the question one more time. Explain your understanding of the rural water lawsuit that's currently pending.
well, my understanding is pretty much the same as everybody else in the area, where we receive fees on our bills for services that we're not receiving to a certain degree. And, for that, I haven't necessarily had a problem with it, but I know that others do. And the reason why is because my involvement within rural water is extremely limited as far as looking into exactly what the lawsuit is. I have some ideas of what's going to happen and how the judge is going to rule. I think that we're going to find some serious fees that need to be dealt with that might be cumulative, unfortunately. And I don't think that suit should have probably ever happened. I think it should have been dealt with a little bit differently. And I would have handled it different.
Thank you. I'm going to ask a question here that could open a can of worms, and I'm going to go back to, the treat others with respect that we began with here. But the question is, what did the current city council in the last 4 years do wrong, and how would you do it differently? And I think I want to begin with Mark on this one.
Oh, thank you very much.
And I'll go ahead and let everybody know, I think I'm going to ask this of each and every one of you, so be prepared.
The current city council's done a lot of really good things. We'll start with that. I have no problem with that. But we'll go right back to the rural water treatment lawsuit, because that's the biggest thing that's been out there lately. The city provided water to somebody that needed it, but it wasn't in our purview or our area of responsibility, and we didn't get permission to do it. When the lawsuit started and we were told we were going to have to pay a fine or something or whatever, we should have gone to rural water district and said, it's yours, fix it. The city will back away. And rural water district, who couldn't provide that service, would have then had to come to the city and say, well, we need your help. We will let you go in there and do that. And there wouldn't have been this lawsuit. So somewhere back a long time ago, the city council should have approached those attorneys and said, enough is enough. Let's go at it. And again, we don't know all the facts. The current city council does. Some of it's all been behind closed doors. We should have told rural water district, it's yours, fix it, take care of it. We'll help you if we need to.
Thank you. Trey?
Yeah,
Now,
let me-
you were on city council, so this is.
Well, yeah, I am on city council, and I would like to quickly address that none of us that are currently on city council were on city council when the rural water lawsuit came out. I think that's an important aspect. We've been dealing with the rural water issue, and to claim that things are behind closed doors, those are behind closed doors for executive session and for times where we're dealing with the judge. Do I agree that there were mistakes made from past councils? Absolutely. And I've been the bearer of having to deal with them with this existing council as well, and how to navigate and chart those waters. No pun intended. So it's been a struggle. It's been a fight. It's detrimental at some point in time, but we have to deal with it, and we've been dealing with it and trying to deal with it the best we can and the best we know how. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Brian, what did the current city council in the last 4 years do wrong? How would you do it differently?
Well, I don't know that you can put blame on any of the last council for really doing anything that we could classify as wrong. One thing I have learned in going to the workshops and to the council meetings is everything's real rushed and everything's real fast. I happen to actually am able to pull agendas pretty much as quick as the council's pulling agendas. And some of these things unless something else is behind the scenes, and maybe the workshop is, the academy is when I attend that, I'll learn something differently. I just think there needs to be more time put in. I don't think, an hour, handling multiple issues on a workshop is enough time to jump right into a city council and make decisions that affect all of us. I think we need more time. I've seen people that are short on time, citizens that come in, they don't get to express their views. They wait and wait and wait, and we run out of time. So time is something that we all have, that we have none of.
You've run out of time. It's very obvious you've run out.
She does me that way too. Jeff?
Gosh, on the water deal,
Let me restate this question, and so that we don't necessarily focus on that. But what did the current city council in the last 4 years do wrong, and how would you do it differently?
I'm going to agree with what they have to say. I think there's the council that's here now is totally different than what the council was before. Yes, there's some things I think it could have been done differently on the water issue. I'm not going to jump in that fray unless I get elected. Then I'll be jumping into it. I'll have to have a word in, and I'll kind of know what's going on. As far as the council goes, hey, everybody's going to make mistakes, and I think it's something that you just go down the road and you just say, okay, we won't do it again, or we're going to have to look at. That's why you have an attorney here that will tell you, you've done something right or you've done something wrong. So I think that as far as the council goes, I haven't attended that many meetings, but the ones I have attended, they seem to run seamlessly. And I know there's some things that I've dealt with some people before that they probably haven't done some things right, but that's on any board that I've served on. That's we'll all make mistakes.
Thank you. Linda, what did the current city council in the last 4 years do wrong, and how would you do it differently?
They passed ordinance 3240 in Guthrie, which is the International Property Maintenance Code. They didn't have to, they weren't required to. Guthrie's one of the very few places that has passed it. And like I said before, it gives the city control over the inside and the outside of our house. They can come into our house to see if we have a code infringement against our will, and they can require us to fix it. That law, if you read about them, like I said, they are astounding. If you have peeling paint in your house, they can require you to fix it. It's atrocious. That was wrong. They should have read it. They should have researched it. They should have thought about it. It's serious.
Okay. Z?
Actually, I can't think of too much we did wrong. I have to agree with Trey, though. The city and the rural water issue was not ours, and it's one of those things we're dealing with that prior councils had set us up with. And, when we talk about ordinances, we do read those things, we do research them, and we do understand what we're voting on. We don't spend a lot of time in council, but we've read them things before we get there, and I'm notorious for calling Serena and asking her the background on some of these things. So I really can't think of anything terribly wrong that we did Pretty proud of the direction we've gone. I think that our property values are going to increase, and that's what we're trying to do is make the city grow and be more pleasing to the eye.
Thank you. Mathis, what did the current city council in the last 4 years do wrong, and how would you do it differently?
Thank you. I want to thank you for diverting us away from the water issue. Let's move on to one of the things that I think we done wrong was and I don't know the ordinance number, and it may be the one that we're talking about, but driveways. If you go into some of the areas of Guthrie, there are no driveways. Yet and still, you cannot park your car there. Is this the same one? You cannot park your car, more than one car there. And so that's something that I see that the city council did that was wrong by causing people to get their cars moved out. If there's one parked there and it's on a flat, they come and move your car away or get you to move it away. So I think they did it wrong. I think we would set it so that at least give the person an opportunity to fix the vehicle and move it out of the way.
Thank you. And John?
Okay. I'm not sure if we ever passed that ordinance, but, okay, so the water treatment plant, that was ditto, Z and Trey said it well, that was 10 years ago when that happened, so we're dealing with that issue. We, by the way, have had a workshop that's an hour before council. I would like you to go to any city in Oklahoma, you'll find there's very few of those happening. We have more dialogue at Guthrie City Council than any other, very few, or most cities in Oklahoma. And I went to the OML, they were surprised, this is a model city for that. We talked the prior week before on a lot of these issues. We've done a lot right. We have citizens academies, very few cities have that. We have GTV 20 at board meetings, very few places have that. We've done a lot right. CIP, we've paved more than $400,000 worth of roads since I've been on council. Dilapidated structures, we've knocked down 20 of those, and we're going to try to, in the next 3 years, knock down 30 more. So I think we're doing some great stuff. Restoration of the old water treatment plant, we've done a lot of good stuff on city council, and I'm proud of it.
Thank you. We're going to take one more question. We're going to let the four that haven't had equal opportunity here, we're going to let those four answer that question. And then we're going to complete with 1 minute for each of you as closing statement. So you can be thinking about that. So I'm going to direct this, if I could, to Linda. What are your plans to cope with the aging police and fire equipment, losing valuable officers and firefighters to other departments due to low pay? Let me re-ask that question. What are your plans to cope with the aging police and fire equipment and losing valuable officers / firefighters to other departments due to low pay?
According to what I heard in the Citizens Academy, the city takes care of people best they can. They give them raises. They buy them equipment. And the mayor has told us several times about how important these people were and how they did take care of them. So I really don't know anything about it other than what I was told in the academy, that they were first on the agenda of keeping people happy in the city.
Thank you. Z?
Basically, she's right. They are very high on the priority list of things. You got to have your police and your fire. So we have to make sure that we're budgeting properly and working with those unions to negotiate those contracts every year, every time it comes up, and make sure that we're coming across. And we've had some great contract negotiations with them and giving them what they want. And I think we just continue to do what we're doing and keep them happy. Now we're losing people to Edmond and other places. We're sort of a training ground for some of them. That's not necessarily a good thing because they come here and they work for a couple of years and then they leave and go to a place that they get a lot more pay. That's part of the problem we have to really solve, and that really comes down to pay because that's why they're leaving.
Thank you. I'm going to re-ask the question here again, and that's directed toward Ward 1. And I'm going to begin with Mathis. What are your plans to cope with the aging police and fire equipment and losing valuable officers and firefighters to other departments due to low pay? Mathis.
Very good question. I think the thing is this. We as the people need to vote. we as the people need to shop here in Guthrie. We as the people, as we increase our tax base by shopping here in Guthrie, I think we can increase the fire department by virtue of pay. I think we can look at doing that if we vote here in Guthrie, if we get our budgets passed, if we look at that and fix it so that our money is going to our people here rather than letting them get away. We can't let them get away. People are our most important asset, and we need to keep our good fire department. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
Okay, well, we have an outstanding police and fire force. We really do. And we've had, as a city, we've had a pretty good relationship with the fire and the police in the last few years. And I think we want to keep up that relationship. We do have an aging fire and police set equipment. I know for example, several years ago, we bought a lot of fire equipment all at the same time. And so it's all aged at the same time. So it's all pretty old right now. And so, I'll tell you the truth, the fire and police are probably looking at a bond issue down the road, and that's something to think about, because we have to have fire and police. In fact, the state legislature says that one of the things that cities have to do is have fire and police. So we have to keep them. We do lose firemen and policemen, and we train them just like police officers. They get trained in Cleat. A couple years later, they go to Edmond because you get paid a lot more. And then a lot of people in Edmond go to Oklahoma City. So we need to keep these guys here.
Thank you. Now for closing comments, we're going to give 1 minute apiece for closing comments, any that you might have. I'm going to begin in Ward 3 with Linda.
Okay. I was just thinking that there are so many complaints about the utility bills that I think that it would be a great thing for the city to use the potential windfall profit from the Mumford concert to pay down the WTP debt. It would show respect to the citizens and that the city is trying to help alleviate the debt. And I would like to tell people that they have 3 opportunities to vote, and if they're not happy, they can vote on Friday, March 29th from 8 to 6 at the election board, and Monday, April 1st, the same place, and then on their regular polling places on April the 2nd,
7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
7 to 7.
Thank you. Zeke?
First of all, thank you, Dan, for hosting this. I think you did a real nice job. Thanks to the Chamber for hosting this as well. And when I introduced myself, I started to talk about kicking the can, which we hear the state talking about with the pension plan. We use that term on the city council because we're dealing with a lot of things that the councils before us didn't have the stomach to do. And we're left over. We made some tough decisions and to do things that need to be done. We realize there's nothing too sexy about updating our sewer lines, but it is important stuff that has to be done. If it were your home that the sewer line was backing up into, you would see it as important. So we've made some hard calls, and it's time that we got out of 1978, 1982. Whatever went on in 1978 and 82, I was in high school probably, and I didn't even live here, so I don't know what those things are, but I'd like to live in the now and move forward.
Thank you. Jeff?
I want to tell you, Dan, thank you for hosting this tonight as well as the Chamber. I want to thank the citizens for coming out and giving some ideas to us or to all of us, really. Thanks for my wife for putting up with me, for coming up here and deciding to run for this. Something else that I think that needs to be done, I'd like to see even, and I've talked to several people about having Amtrak coming on up this direction as well, which would bring in tourists, which would bring in maybe some new jobs and create some new businesses. That's something I had to ask a while ago, or add to it a while ago. But I want to tell everybody thank you for coming out tonight, and I appreciate their time.
Thank you. Brian?
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for coming out as well. And I want to get back to the too much time real quick that I lost a minute ago. We all have time on our hands that we can donate. And that's kind of what I'm doing here. And that's what I'm finding out through running this campaign that, brings a certain amount of humility and a certain amount of compassion to one. that I don't know that I had. I mean, I always had humility and compassion, but I don't think near as deep as I've found. Growth is key. If we want to buy new fire engines, we got to grow. We can do bonds all day long. They got to be paid for. It's about economics. We have to grow the community. We have to increase, and the infrastructure is key. If you have sewers backing up into your house, you're right. It's not going to be tolerated by anybody. We have to beautify. Nobody wants to come to ugly, and that's just the way it is. Our home values will go up as we grow, we increase infrastructure, and we beautify. That's why we all came here, to settle in, to dig our roots. And I'm out of time. I'm always out of time.
Mathis?
I'd like to say thanks to Dan, and I'd like to say thanks to my mom for supporting me. She's sitting right back there. I'd like to thank the council, and I kind of want to echo Brian's words, and I'm one that like to blaze my own trail, and that's one of the reasons I'm here. I'd like to come out, and I'm also people-orientated. I like to work with people, and there's a wealth of people out there in Ward 1 that would like to see a lot of things done here at City Hall, and I'd like to be a part of that. And if you'll vote for me, I can do that. And I'm asking for your vote right now, and I appreciate everything that you've done. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Thank you. John?
Okay, well, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. It does take time out of your schedule to learn more about your candidates. I want to thank Dan for volunteering for this job. You didn't have to do that. Also, I think Guthrie can grow. Again, not like Edmonds, but we can grow our own way, and we can do that. We got to work on our infrastructure. It's falling apart. We have a wastewater treatment plant we're going to have to deal with in the next few years. We have to strengthen our neighborhoods. I think we're doing a great job. We have more neighborhoods in the last 4 or 5 years than our neighbor associations than we've had ever. Thriving business. We can have business incentives. Part of that is that infrastructure. And we need to support all the selfless city employees out there who work for very little. As we talked about fire and police, they work for little money for all this work that they do, and we really support them. And this is a great place, and I hope we all reside with pride. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
Thank you, Dan. To the citizens of Guthrie, again, I'm here by choice. I wasn't born here, wasn't raised here. I moved here, and I like this town. I want to stay here. I want to be involved in this as a choice, and I want to help make the changes, keep the improvements going, keep things happening in this city of Guthrie, and also put in my 2 cents worth to make it even better. So it's going to be a matter of, what do you want? Are you happy with the way things have gone? Do you want to see a little bit of change? Do you want to see some new blood in the city council a little bit, some new different attitudes? Give us a chance. We want to continue what's going on right now. We want to make it even better, and we're willing to do that. But you've got to get out and vote, and you've got 3 days to do it when you decide to go vote, and it's up to you. So if you don't vote, don't complain. It's that simple. Thank you.
Thank you. And Trey?
Thank you, Dan, and thanks for everybody coming out tonight. It's a great feeling as an existing councilman to hear candidates supporting the existing council. What a great honor that is. And with that, as we continue to grow, I think the biggest testament to me will be one day when my kids go off to school, and one day they come back and they say, you know what, I grew up in a great town, I want to move back there. What an honor that'll be. But in order to do that, we have to implement those things to continue to grow our city correctly as we move forward, so my kids will someday want to move back to this community. It is such a great community. I'm a newbie here too. I'm not a lifelong guy here, but it's important to me that the day that we stepped foot in Guthrie, it became apparent that it's important for me to plug in and do what I can do to better our community as a group and as citizens, while always listening to the viewpoint of others. And I think that's important, that we're always listening, we're always trying to understand, and we're always moving the city forward together. So thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank you all for participating tonight. I think we've set some kind of a record tonight, because I never one time heard a cell phone. I don't think I've ever heard a more polite audience out there. I think it's been fantastic from that standpoint. The one thing I absolutely have to do is thank the person that's over here keeping track of time, because she had no idea that was going to be her duty tonight when she came. It's my wife, Joy, and I'd like to thank you for that.
All right.
And I'd also like to thank Dennis and Lucy, who I didn't thank earlier. Really appreciate each and every one of you for your, just the way you've been so cordial tonight. It's just been a great, I think, part of what makes this country great. So I'd like to ask that as you leave tonight, that you drive safely. And then the thing that I'd like to close with is that just the one statement or two is that, you know, I'm going to pray that God richly blesses this community and our nation. Good night. Thank you.